What is up, guys? This is No Risk, No Premium, also known as Chris, in our Wolves of Wealth Discord. Hey, I wanted to just take a quick minute here before we hit our Wednesday Wolf Cap recap on today, 10/27/21 at 3:37. Just take a couple moments here to talk to you guys about an indicator I use that I really like. I had some people ask me some questions about it, so I just wanted to clarify. And the indicator is this. Let me move this out of the way. There it is. The indicator is this. Is called pivot points. Pivot points. I'm going to post an Investopedia little article that you can read through that'll explain a little bit more in depth and some of the mathematical equations behind it. But what are the pivot points? The pivot points are these guys. The pivot point is this purple line you see here. Okay, that's the pivot, and it also gives you three levels, or two or three levels of resistance, which is R1, this red line here, R2, this red line here. Then you have S1, support 1, and S2, support 2. Okay, this goes ahead and calculates it for the subsequent day, previous high, lows, and close to give to the next day. Okay, or excuse me, it gives the previous day to give the subsequent day. Sorry, it's been a long day. I have some coffee brewing. But all you need to know is it gives it on all of the different time frames. So just the pivot point is this. This is basically the one I use the most, this purple one. Okay, it's the previous high plus the previous low of the previous day plus the previous close of the previous day divided by 3. Now, if that's a tongue twister and hard to understand, it's going to be in that Investopedia article. But just know this, guys. No matter what time frame you're on, this can apply for every single time frame. I mean, we go to the 4-hour here. Sorry, I know that looks ugly with it, but you can see even just for these, few days. Okay, you can see the different pivot point levels. Obviously, the pivot is purple. Anything red above it is resistance. Anything below it is support. Obviously, you guys know resistance is also where there's supply, where there's going to be sellers, right? And then the supply zone will probably be where there's buyers. Okay, but if you look at something interesting here, no matter what time frame you get on, okay, I usually like a little bit higher time frames, but I'll show you what goes on just these lower time frames. It gives me a help for when I day trade on the lower time frames. Usually, typically, if a stock opens above the pivot point, the actual purple line, and does not fall through for continuations, typically that day there's going to be more bullish sentiment on the stock. Now, it's not foolproof, but it typically works out that way. If you notice here, it opened, right? It tested the pivot, it did not get through, and then it ended higher. Okay, it ended higher, had a green day from yesterday's close here. It closed green. Okay, so as a day trader, you can obviously use different indicators in your strategy, but just to know, hey, the sentiment is likely to be bullish here, and it had a huge rip up. Okay, great. If we go over here, we notice we opened up way above the pivot. Okay, way above the pivot. Okay, we closed over here, we opened up here. Okay, it did not test the pivot at all. It went higher. I had a chance to day trade it higher. Obviously, intraday, you could have done it lower too, but just know you could have day traded for calls here and probably made some money. Okay, now notice here, we're below this pivot on 10/25 was 2 days ago, it was Monday. All right, closed below the pivot. We didn't get above it. Okay, we went down and tested the support. Okay, but overall, we ended the day bearish. There was more bearish sentiment. We closed right over here lower than the previous day's close, so that's bearish sentiment. Okay, same thing the day before. We actually opened, it looks like there was a little bit of an opening here, right? Actually opened just below it. We went up, didn't hold, and then we cratered all the way through. And excuse me. I think this was here. Yep. Okay. We cratered all the way, and we just blew through through support all the way down, right? Ended lower. Okay. Same thing here. You notice we opened up below. We immediately went through, held above, then used it as support and ended higher. So even you can use this as a crossover reference. If it crosses over and holds, then you can say, okay, it was bearish to start, or bearish start the morning. Then we went bullish. Okay, great. Then we held. That's good. Now we'll show you on the higher time frame just to show you. This one's a little bit cleaner because obviously on the lower time frames there's a lot more noise. It shows a lot more volatility intraday, whereas the bigger picture gives a more smooth picture or story of how the day went, right? So here, if we just go back to just today, excuse me, we could see, hey, we opened right here, just above that pivot. And if you would have ignored all the noise that went on here on the lower time frame channel, if you remember, it was a lot of noise, right? All this up and down and up and down and up and down and up, right? This is the same day, but on the hourly, if you would have ignored all that noise, bought the calls because you knew it was going to be bullish sentiment over this pivot, okay, you could have just bought, held, knowing it was, and it would have went all the way up, right? Okay, same thing here. Opened above the pivot. Okay, it was way higher pre-market. Opened here, and it went higher. You could have made a day trade there. Okay. Same thing below, right? Open below, stay below. Open below, open above right here, then blew through it. Blew through it, did not hold on for anything. It just slid right down the mountain. Okay, but it blew through that pivot and it held. Okay, you can use the higher time frame to confirm that it's going to hold, because on lower time frames, you'll probably see, if we go to that day, which was 2 days ago, a lower time frame, you're like, oh, we're going through, sweet, but there's no candle that held, nothing. There was no buyers that stay present here, right? This is all this is. This is just a representation of buyers and sellers fighting each other. That's all a candle is. Okay, behavioral analysis, if you will. Okay, buyer said fuck you through the pivot, and then seller said hold my beer, let's go down. Boom. Okay, so guys, you can do this on any stock at any time. I mean, the 4 hour, you could do it. I suggest to keep it 4 hour and below, me personally, because it does get a little ugly. Like if you see, I mean, this looks awful, although this is a 180-day chart. Even just like, you know, however many days this is, probably 60. I mean, it still looks pretty ugly, but for the most part, I mean, you go to any, we'll just get this little middle section here. Oh, there it is. I mean, any day here, you could see this 4 hour. I mean, we'll just go to whatever day this is, 10-5. We opened below, but we ripped through. I mean, just ripped through, and then it held above. That was good. So if you knew you busted through the pivot right here, then you knew we were probably going to go higher. And look where it went to. Resistance 1. I mean, almost to the T, right? We have support 1, right? We open below, fall down to support 3, support 3 here, all the way down. Now, these levels aren't perfect, right, guys? Obviously, give some price point levels where you see on the higher time frames that you can draw in on your own. Will definitely help out. But like you can see, I had like a 3280, 3279 level. You can see, hey, okay, we went down, we tested it, we broke it, and then we went way lower. And then you could see there was a little test here after hours. So these levels aren't perfect, but have your levels set, and when they match up, they can definitely help. Okay. So that's all I wanted to give on the pivots, guys. The pivot points are good. I like them. They allow me to understand from a daily perspective what we can expect for the sentiment of the market. A hold above, in the beginning of the day is likely we'll go higher, or we won't go lower. Okay. Or the market's probably pretty strong. Okay. So obviously an open or hold underneath could go lower or just stay bearish. Okay. That's all I wanted to give you guys. Hope that helped. Hope that was quick and to the point. Look out for many, many, many more of these coming. I will see y'all in the Discord. Let's work.